Amabel Quinn did not permit the stranger to take Hallowmere Way. "You may dislike the Ridge Road," she told him, tightening the strap around her survey case, "but your horse will dislike a wild boar considerably more." The gentleman glanced once toward the darkened lane. "You are certain they are still loose?" "I am certain someone wants us to believe they are." That answer interested him. They rode toward Briarley together as evening gathered across the fields. Amabel explained that 3 parishes had employed her to survey the closure. What began as a 3-week restriction had continued for 18 months. Fence repairs appeared repeatedly in the estate accounts, yet the same breaches remained. Meanwhile, traffic had nearly doubled on the longer Meergate Turnpike. "Perhaps the Duke relies upon his agent," the stranger suggested. Amabel looked ahead. "He may delegate authority. He cannot delegate responsibility." The man became unusually quiet. At Briarley, they separated. Only after he had ridden away did Amabel realize how carefully he had questioned her about Winterbourne's accounts, roads, and estate officers. He knew too much for an ordinary traveler. She simply did not yet know why. The following morning, Amabel inspected Blackthorn Chase with senior keeper Auric Penhall. The mysterious traveler appeared again. "I thought your business lay elsewhere," she said. "So did I." She allowed him to accompany them because 2 parish witnesses were already present. The difference between the fences was immediate. Beside Winterbourne's main drive, the timber was new, thick, tarred, and securely pinned. Beside Hallowmere Way, rails were cracked, lower boards missing, and posts badly anchored. Auric swore he had requested proper repairs for months. Then Amabel found grain scattered beneath the weak section. Not accidental handfuls. A deliberate trail. Fresh rooting scarred the soil around it. "The animals are being drawn here," she said. A branch cracked inside the chase. A heavy black boar broke through the brush. The stranger's horse shied violently. Behind the bank, Amabel shouted. This time he obeyed without argument. Auric swung the loose gate closed while the animal crossed toward the verge and disappeared deeper into the trees. When the danger passed, the stranger helped Auric reset the rail. He did not boast. He did not attempt to turn obedience into courage. Amabel disliked how much she noticed that. That afternoon, Amabel presented her preliminary findings at Briarley Parish Hall. The stranger sat quietly near the back. She explained that the beasts were real, but the scale of the closure was not. Most of Hallowmere Way could reopen if the damaged section beside Blackthorn Chase were properly fenced. Before she finished, the doors opened. Sir Fulk Morcant entered with 2 estate solicitors. He stopped the moment he saw the man seated near the wall, then bowed. "Your Grace." The room froze. Amabel slowly turned. The stranger rose. Cavan Dorian, Duke of Winterbourne. Every conversation they had shared rearranged itself at once. After the meeting, he approached her outside. "I did not give you a false name. You allowed a false assumption. I needed to hear what people would say without ceremony." And Silas Kestel, collector at Meergate Gate, produced duplicate toll books. He had begun keeping his own counts because the official figures changed after submission. Traffic increased sharply following every Blackthorn closure. Farmers, carriers, stage wagons, and tradesmen all paid the longer route toll. Morcant's carts did not. They passed with special tokens. Clemence True added the records from her Hallowmere coaching inn. Before the closure, coaches stopped there every day. Afterward, travellers shifted almost precisely toward a Meergate inn connected to Morcant's business interests. Prue Nansell examined the legal notices. Cavan's original order authorized only a temporary restriction adjacent to dangerous portions of Blackthorn Chase. Later signs declared Hallowmere Way closed by ducal authority. Cavan had never signed them. His first order had simply made the later ones believable. "I will dismiss Morcant today," Cavan said. Amabel closed the toll ledger. "Dismiss him if you wish. But do not confuse removing the man with proving the system." He looked at her sharply, then reconsidered. Morcant remained temporarily in office under restricted authority while independent custody was placed over the estate records. It was the first time Amabel saw Cavan restrain power when using it immediately would have been easier. The boundary finally betrayed the scheme. Amabel compared parish maps, estate surveys, drainage channels, hedge lines, bridge records, and old stones. The newest Winterbourne map showed Blackthorn Chase extending across part of Hallowmere Way. The older landscape did not. One boundary stone had been moved nearly 40 yards. Another lay half buried behind newer fencing. Fresh tool marks cut through the moss along its base. Prue confirmed that Hallowmere Way remained a protected public route. Cavan opened Winterbourne's map room. The older surveys matched Amabel's reconstruction. Only the recent plans shifted the chase boundary. Then the fence accounts arrived. The estate had paid for enough hardwood to rebuild Blackthorn's perimeter twice. Much of it never reached the chase. Auric identified contractor carts that had carried timber elsewhere. Amabel spread the maps across a long table. The pattern was finally visible. Keep the fence weak. Scatter feed near the breach. Keep the bore close to the road. Expand the danger notices. Move the boundary on paper. Send travelers toward Meergate. Collect the tolls. Cavan stared at the route his own signature had helped close. The animals were never the whole trap. No, Amabel said. They were simply the part that frightened people enough not to question the gate. Outside the maproom windows, Hallowmere Way stretched toward Blackthorn Chase. For 18 months, everyone had been warned about what might attack them on the road. No one had asked who benefited from making certain the road remained dangerous. Sir Fulk Morcant understood that the maps were closing around him. The magistrates were due to inspect Hallowmere Way the following morning. If they found the road quiet and the fences repairable, the 18-month closure would become indefensible. Before dawn, Auric Penhall discovered fresh grain scattered beyond the inner chase. Several gate pins had been removed. The bores were being drawn toward the public verge. Amabel studied the tracks. "This is not wandering," she said. "Someone is funneling them." She, Auric, Cavan, and independent keepers built a temporary line using farm gates, stone walls, canvas screens, and feed placed deeper inside Blackthorn. The first bore burst from the bracken before they were ready. A cart horse reared. Another animal crashed across the lane. Amabel shouted instructions from behind a stone wall. Cavan did exactly as she told him. No reckless charge. No attempt to prove courage. Together they redirected the animals toward the secure inner ground. When the final gate was pinned shut, Auric found one of the removed fittings beneath the hedge. It bore the contractor's mark used by Morcant's fencing company. The emergency had been prepared. Not invented. Prepared. That difference mattered. The financial records completed the picture. Morcant's interests stretched through Meergate like roots beneath a road. He held hidden stakes in the toll lease, the coaching inn, the fencing contractor, the stone supplier, the grain merchant. Every closure increased revenue for businesses connected to him. Meanwhile, properties along Hallowmere Way had collapsed in value. A smithy, 2 cottages, a stable yard, a carrier's depot. All had been purchased cheaply by Morcant's associates after the road lost traffic. Then Cavan discovered something worse. Winterbourne itself received a share of one turnpike agreement. The estate had profited from the diversion. His solicitor advised waiting until the final inquiry before surrendering it. Cavan refused. Then let the cost begin with the man whose signature made the detour possible. He relinquished Winterbourne's share before the hearing. Amabel learned of the decision from Prue Nansell, not from Cavan. He did not bring it to her as evidence of virtue. That restraint mattered more than any speech. For the first time since the Parish Hall revelation, she wondered whether the stranger she had trusted on the Ridge Road and the Duke she distrusted at Winterbourne might yet become the same man. The final inquiry began outdoors at Burnt Ash Cross. Magistrates, carriers, parish officers, gamekeepers, innkeepers, estate solicitors, and residents walked Hallowmere Way together. Amabel led the perambulation. At Alder Bridge, maintenance records proved the road's public status. At Blackthorn Fence, invoices showed timber purchased but never installed. At the feed verge, Auric's records established that grain had been placed where animals would approach travelers. At the displaced boundary stones, older surveys proved the chase had been enlarged only on newer paper. At Meergate Junction, Silas Kestell's toll books showed immediate traffic increases after every closure. At Clementstru's Inn, Stable records demonstrated precisely where the lost business had gone. Morcant finally argued that whatever mistakes occurred, the danger justified decisive action. Amabel looked toward the repaired fence. Danger justified removing the danger. She pointed toward Meergate. It did not justify preserving it because the detour paid better. Cavan produced his original closure order. I authorized a temporary emergency and failed to ask why that emergency became profitable before it became permanent. He did not blame Morcant for exceeding authority as though that erased his own responsibility. By the end of the walk, the road itself had become the strongest witness. Hallowmere Way did not reopen immediately. Amabel refused to replace corruption with ceremony. The new road compact required double fencing along Blackthorn Chase, independent quarterly inspections, public closure notices, strict time limits on emergency restrictions, and parish approval for extensions. No estate agent could hold financial interests in diversion routes. Turnpike accounts became public. Boundary maps were deposited separately with parish and estate solicitors. No stone could be moved without witnessed record. Carriers fined under the unlawful closures received compensation. Businesses damaged by the diversion received restitution. Feed could no longer be placed near public roads. Auric became independent head keeper under shared oversight. Silas's duplicate books became the basis for transparent toll accounting. Clements retained her inn. Prue supervised restoration of the public right-of-way. Winderbourne paid its assessed share. Cavan received no veto. Only when the fencing was complete did the first barrier come down. There was no ducal procession. A physician crossed first. Then 2 carriers. Then a farmer with produce. Ordinary traffic returned to the road before aristocratic ceremony could claim the reopening. Amabel watched from beside the milestone. That was exactly as she wanted it. Months later, Hallowmere remained open. The Boars stayed safely inside Blackthorn. The Quinn survey rooms had moved on to another county contract. One autumn morning, Amabel was checking a repaired milestone when hoofbeats sounded behind her. Cavan approached alone. This time there was nothing concealed about him. He dismounted before speaking. The road appears kinder than when we met. The road was never the worst danger. I suspected you might remember that. Amabel continued measuring. Cavan waited. At last he said, I have no estate instruction. No disputed boundary? No. No survey contract? None. That is progress. His expression softened. When we first met, I allowed you to trust a stranger who possessed information that could affect your work. I cannot undo that. Amabel lowered her measuring rod. I know. I would like to ask whether I may begin again without disguise, employment, gratitude, or obligation. She studied him for a long moment. You are asking permission to call? Yes. That is considerably more cautious than riding toward loose boar. I have received excellent instruction. Her smile appeared despite herself. Thursday. 4 o'clock. Quinn survey rooms. Should I bring anything? A willingness to follow road signs. 3 years later, they married under a settlement protecting Amabel's business, maps, contracts, income, and professional independence. Hallowmere remained public. The chase remained independently supervised. At Burnt Ash Cross, the old warning board was preserved beside a newer notice explaining that closures could occur only during verified danger. One evening, a traveller asked whether Amabel had truly once warned the Duke without knowing who he was. Cavan answered first. She thought I was an ordinary stranger because I had taken considerable trouble to look like one. Amabel glanced at him. And considerable trouble not to mention the useful portion of the truth. The traveller laughed. Were there really wild beasts ahead? Amabel looked toward the secure double fence. Oh, certainly. Cavan raised an eyebrow. She means the boar. Mostly. They rode on toward Winderbourne. Years earlier, Cavan had believed coming home meant reaching his own gates. Amabel had taught him that a man was not truly home while the roads carrying everyone else there remained unsafe in his name.